It's Nolan. What's going on, y'all? It's the kid J Nolan here. Welcome to another episode of Inside the Industry Podcast, your number one source for music and entertainment breakdowns, commentary, and more. Today, we're going to get into Kanye West, aka Ye's Vultures 2 rollout. And of course, we can't talk about the Vultures 2 rollout without talking about Vultures 1. Now, some people, they came at me when I talked about how his Vultures 1 album with Dolla was getting removed from streaming platforms and stuff like that. And they were like, yo, the album is back up on streaming platforms. Are you going to do a follow-up video? Yo, why are you spreading negative propaganda about Ye? I wasn't spreading I wasn't spreading negative information or propaganda about this man. That's what happened. He was being attacked for improper sample clearances. That's what we talked about at the time. Y'all expected me to come back 30 minutes later and do a oh, and this is what happened since then video. No, that's not how things go. However, what I will do is talk about how things went with Vultures 1 and talk about how he's doing things differently with Vultures 2 because it was expected to drop last week, if I'm not mistaken. Now, overnight, Kanye also put out some scathing words for Drake and other people in the industry and people that decided to go against him in this whole process. We have his daughter, Northwest, who's actually going to be working on her own album called Elementary School Dropout, which I don't know how that's going to go. I have thoughts about that, but we're going to get into all that in just a moment. All right. Now, before we get to the Vultures 2 rollout, we're going to go ahead and just talk about how Kanye impacted the music industry with the Vultures 1 project. All right. So let's get into the information. I'm on Billboard. And so surprisingly, with no real press, no interviews, no nothing, right? Kanye did debut at number 1 on the Billboard 200 with the Vultures 1 album. They're estimating that this album made a little more than $1 million in its opening week. And remember, at this point in the game, Kanye West, aka Ye, is a completely independent artist. He's not signed to Rockefeller no more. He's not signed to Roc Nation. He's not signed to Def Jam. He has completely disbanded the label Good Music. So all of his music industry ties are completely gone except for the people that he's working with in the studio. He is completely rogue to the industry. There's some people that may be invested in his downfall, some people that may want to see him go bad or go down, but the numbers are in his favor, right? If you make $1 million off an album and you're completely independent, that is profit. Now, I don't know how much of that $1 million is going to be split on sample clearances in publishing and whatnot, you know what I'm saying, off of the royalty exchanges and stuff like that, because there was a lot of samples on the album. There was a lot of features on the album. We don't know how they were compensated for their time, their work, their efforts, but $1 million independently off an album is major. All right. They're estimating that the streaming of the album brought in about $892,000 from close to 169 million on-demand streams. Plus, they also made a little extra from hard sales. They made approximately $145,000, which means those that actually went and bought the album from him directly. They say that Dolla and Kanye are allegedly giving up around 5% to their distribution company, which at that 5% rate, they would take home about 986,000 out of that million, right? Even more, they say, when you factor in global streams and publishing. So this is a wildly successful album, despite all of the controversy, despite any negatives, and despite any, questionable lyrics that may be on the album, which when I listened to it, I heard quite a few, but this isn't about that. Okay? Now, they say contrast this with the situation West faced at the start of his career in the major label system. Images of his old contracts that he tweeted in 2020 indicate that when he made the college dropout, he only earned a 14% royalty rate on albums sold in the US. Now remember, he's completely independent today. He makes $1 million, get a distribution agreement. Out of that million, him and Ty Dolla $ign take home $986,000. Now you reverse that back at college dropout time, he was getting a measly 14%, which even in today's time is a little bit low, because the standard contract I think today is somewhere around 16 to 18%, which hasn't advanced very much, but is a bit higher. This industry is crazy. You go in there, do all the work, make all the music, get all the personnel together, get your whole squad, songwriters, get your whole, remember, Kanye West has been working with live musicians since day one, all of these different people paying out of cash. With the college dropout, he funded his own music videos, had his own homeboys record the music videos and whatnot. And he only made a 14% royalty rate off of that and was locked into that deal for quite some time. All right. So, as in a typical royalty deal, which I've talked about numerous times on my channel, right? No royalty shall be due and payable until such time as all advances have been recouped. So whatever money he made from Rockefeller, Def Jam, etc., off of that original deal, he wasn't going to start receiving his 14% cut until all of that money was recouped, which means that they have to make it back. They have to get back to ground zero. And then from the moment that you get made to zero, you enjoy 14% of the profits. And it's pretty standard in the industry that artists never actually start seeing the percentage of those profits due to cross-collateralization and other terms and conditions that the record company is going to throw your direction. Right? So bear with me. We're going to talk about, if we're going to talk, we're going to talk about it. You know what I mean? So they say, in a theoretic example, if West was in this deal and he had just $1 million in recoupable expenses, such as an advance associated with an album, that release would need to generate about $7 million in total sales income for him to recoup and start earning money. So you look, if they give you $1 million, they want you to make $7 million before you start actually enjoying the fruits of your labor. Again, we've talked about this on the channel, but a lot of y'all are new here. A lot of y'all don't know about my past and all of my other content before 2024. So we're just going to reintroduce these concepts to y'all. In this simple hypothetical, an artist is only generating income through sales, not syncs or other ancillary sources, and the royalty rate isn't increasing when an artist hits certain sales thresholds. All right. So to generate around $1 million in royalties for the creator, as Vultures 1 did, in just 1 week, the album stuck in a 14% royalty deal would then have to earn an additional $7 million in total sales revenue, right? So he would have to make $7 million in order to start actually making a profit off of his 14% share. But in order to make $1 million, there would need to be another $7 million in total sales, which means you got to generate $14 million before you get one. Translated to on-demand streams, that would mean around another 1.3 billion plays. So you see how hard it is for some of these artists to actually make $1 million, because a lot of these artists are still in those types of deals today. That's why artists be on social media crying, talking about they in fucked up positions because they signed the paperwork, but the paperwork was not in their favor. Now they got to do more work for the paper. Shit. Now, since West is no longer affiliated with a major label, the commercial success of Vultures 1 has been lauded on social media as a breakthrough moment for the independent sector, right? We're not really going to go into some of this other stuff in here. But again, in West's case, images of recording agreements he tweeted in 2020 showed that Universal Music Group forked over an $8 million advance for Yeezus, along with another $4 million for recording and sample clearances. The contract photos also indicated that Universal was prepared to pay a $3 million advance and an additional $3 million for recording and clearances for his album, Life of Pablo. UMG also poured money into marketing and radio promo over the years. All of these things, he no longer has that at his luxury. He no longer has advances. He no longer has additional budget, for sample clearances. All of that is coming out of pocket and up to negotiation and he's doing this solo. Of course, Kanye isn't the traditional or standard independent artist now. He's got a lot of firepower. He's got a lot of relationships in the industry. Some of those relationships have definitely soured, but he knows people and he keeps people around him that are willing to work with and for him, that can make sure things happen swimmingly for him, despite him crying on social media saying so many people are against him. If he were just to if he were just to focus on the positives and not worry about these other niggas, he's still gonna eat. He's still gonna be successful. He's still gonna be Yeezy. You know what I'm saying? So that's just a glimpse at the impact of the Vultures 1 rollout. Now, as for Vultures 2, okay, we're looking at a totally different, totally inverse process, right? The album was supposed to drop. It didn't. Fans are looking like, what the hell's going on, right? March 8th has come and gone. And surprisingly, literally no one, Kanye West and Dolla $ign's second part of Vultures, is nowhere to be found. According to a Kanye fan account, they tweeted out, and there's some screenshots from Ye on Instagram where he's ideating and coming up with some new strategies, right? So James Blake recently came out. This is slightly unrelated, but it's related because he referenced James Blake. Recently talked about how streaming devalues the music, makes it hard, and basically is leaning into a structure for music that will eventually lead to AI bots becoming the artist. I particularly don't agree with that outlook. I know AI music is something that's on the precipice. It's here. There are AI music production websites where you can literally go tell them what type of beat you want and they'll make a version of that. They don't seem to be all that advanced. Some of them are, but you can't really do much with it because you can't go out and copyright any of that AI produced material anyway, so you can't actually own it. So that's one of the main issues. And then, of course, all the labels are investing in AI branches within their companies, but I don't see them, you know what I mean? I don't think it's going to translate. Nonetheless, Kanye says, like James Blake said, streaming devalues our music, right? We sell albums on Yeezy.com. I got 20 million Instagram followers. When 5% of my followers buy an album, that's 1 million albums sold. That's 300,000 more than the biggest album last year. We sold 1 million items on Yeezy.com on Super Bowl Sunday, so we know it's possible. How do you feel about us not streaming and only selling the album digitally, right? So at one point he was talking about that. He was also ideating on the concept of perhaps only offering the album for sale on Yeezy.com and then allowing the streaming version to come out 30 days later, right? So the first month that it's out, you could only buy it. And then after 30 days, it will be available for streaming. As of right now, we don't know what his final decision is going to be, but it seems like he's still in the creation process, figuring out how they want to roll this thing out. But it seems like streaming is going to be an afterthought nonetheless. Whichever way they decide to go, it's like, all right, we made $1 million off the streaming and album sales, but we made 145,000 off album sales. What if we reverse, you know what I'm saying, the process? What if we just offer it exclusively first for $20 a pop, let the real fans come out and do what they want, you know what I'm saying, do they big one, put their money down, proud to pay Nipsey Hussle style, and we'll figure out the rest later, right? He says he's got 20 million Instagram followers. If only 5% of his followers, which is a very realistic metric, because I know over the years I've been studying the Instagram metrics, and they say you want to hit a target of about 5%. When it comes to getting people off of the app, that's the range you're looking at. That's about the range some people get on email openings and all that type of stuff. So just at a 5% rate. Not even if it goes up to 10, 15, 20%, just 5% of his followers, that's 1 million albums sold. And I think that's very possible for him to pull off. And that's platinum off pure sales, $20 a pop. 1 million copies at $20, that's $20 million. You've 20x'd what you made off Vultures 1 with considerably less people, because you need billions of streams in order to make what they did. Okay? And in this article that I'm looking at, they say, truth be told, it's not a bad idea. More and more artists have been enjoying the freedom and ownership that comes from alternative distribution methods with platforms like Even, who I released my album, Southside Nolan, with last year in December. Still available there for those of y'all that are familiar with the Even platform. But right now, you can get it on my website, realjnolan.com, or you can get it on the streaming platforms. That's up to you. But if you want to support financially, you can get the album Southside Nolan on my website, realjnolan.com. All right. So let me just go ahead and put this on the screen for y'all, just so y'all know what to look for. It's this handsome gentleman right here. All right. Southside Nolan. It's available on all platforms for you. Now, getting back to Kanye. So platforms like Even allow fans to more directly support artists without go-betweens like Spotify taking a big cut and paying out the artist pennies on the dollar. Okay? So that's where Ye is at. Now, there is someone else in the industry that is trying to figure out how to navigate things moving forward. But before I get there, I do want to talk about this guy, TK Music, who kind of went viral on Twitter because he was angry about Kanye's decision, or not even decision, because we don't know what he's going to do. But he was angry about him even thinking of this. He says, this Kanye situation really highlights the disconnect between some of these billionaire artists and their fans. You really expect us to pay monthly rates for streaming services and spend $20 for your albums? Or do you expect us to cancel our subscriptions and only listen to Vultures 2 for the rest of our lives? Apple and Spotify aren't going to suffer from this. The fans are. Nobody's going to suffer from anything because nobody's making you do a motherfucking thing, sir. Nobody is putting a gun to your head saying spend $20 on Vultures 2. If it's not that much of a priority to you, you're just not going to get it. And you're just not going to be able to have access to it. And however you feel about that, that's your business. All right? Go cry in the car if you have to. Now, let's get to the other artist that feels pretty strongly about the industry, similarly to Kanye. And that would be Meek Mill, somebody who's had a tumultuous relationship with Kanye. But they do have this feeling about the industry where they do cross paths and are in agreement. All right. So what Meek says, he says, what bank can I do music business with? The overhead on making music is low. Let me reread that in a more, because he doesn't use proper punctuation, so everything runs together. But he says, what bank can I do music business with? The overhead on making music is low. Working a project can cost up to $5 million for me, and one hit song can make $25 million, like Going Bad did. Regular hits, $10 million on the low side. We don't get data from labels, how much money each song made quarterly. So he's saying he wants to go through the bank route to try and do his music business, right? He doesn't want to get advances from labels anymore. I just told y'all how egregious some of these contracts are, even for some of the top artists. Now, what I will add in was that Kanye's contract was renegotiated and amended. So although he did have that 14% split on College Dropout, they fixed that over time. He ended up getting, if I'm not mistaken, a licensing deal toward the end of his contract, but that was what he was dealing with for the early parts of his career. Meek Mill is someone who came out and called out all of his labels. He left Atlantic, he left Maybach Music, he left Roc Nation Management. He did everything to become a completely independent artist, right? Because he said he was not receiving data, as he mentioned here. He also said that he made no money off of all of the album sales and streams on his music, right? So all of the money that he's made throughout the years has been either from shows, endorsements. I think he had a Puma shoe for a little bit. So he made all of his money from other ancillary things. Probably got some money off of sync licensing, because going Bad, he said, made $25 million. I don't know how much his cut was from that $25 million, but I know Going Bad was like the official song of the NBA Finals or something like that the year it came out. The year it came out. So he's got a lot of positive things going for him, but again, he's still trying to figure out how he wants to maneuver moving forward, which it seems a lot of artists in the industry are at this crossroads. A lot of artists are also leaving their traditional record labels and going over to Even. French Montana just released with them last year. I think he re-upped with them again, and then he decided to do something on his own, which didn't work out all that well. There's a lot of artists going over there. Now, moving forward, he says, how can you actually negotiate a deal if you don't know how much you streaming? What? You don't know how much you're streaming in dollars monthly. Again, bad punctuation. Most of the times, artists get confused in business and lose their creative spark. So he's saying a lot of artists, they get into business. This is what fucks up a lot of people's head. This is why they go on hiatuses, start screaming at the void, because the business part starts taking over their mind. They go crazy because they looking up like, man, I'm generating all this money for the company. I'm famous in all these different countries. Everybody knows who I am. I'm a household name. But I'm hardly keeping my household in order. And they lose their creative spark, right? So he says, to all American banking, I have a history on paper of accumulating over $100 million in profit with music I made with my IP. That's not the money he made, but that's how much money his music has made in general profit for the record companies, Atlantic, Maybach Music, etc. Whoever he had ties with contractually, right? That's not what he made. That's what he generated. Okay? He said, I signed a bad contract when I was 18. It lasts till I was 32 years old. So he was locked in for 14 years. He said, Ross did some good business with me, but I want my money from banks. He says, I've been handling millions since the age of 23. I have 10 other businesses. I don't need my money from labels. I want to build my own. I would partner with an existing label, but I still want my money from a bank or an investor. Music is too easy to generate money for me. He says, I was just hungry. I don't think it was Ross' fault either. I don't think none of us understood the business like we do now from 2011. He was my power marketer. I asked him to get me on TV because I knew what I could do. He invested in me early. Salute. He says, I'm speaking in general. I want my money from banks to invest in studios. Marketing is not hard. On a major, I was spending 1.2, sometimes $2 million a year on studio, according to them. So he says, according to them. So he don't believe that this shit was real. But he was in those studio sessions not paying for them, right? They send him basically some sort of document that says, hey, man, we spent $2 million on studio costs, so you got to recoup that plus whatever else we put into you. He like, well, how the hell I spent $2 million every year in studio costs? Like, the studio don't even cost that much. He says, this week I'm buying a studio for $600K, which cuts that in half, and I can rent it out $2,000 a day, right? He says, I rap too easy. I couldn't drop albums except every 9 months. So for any Meek Mill fans out there that wanted to understand why he was only dropping only so often, he couldn't. Every 9 months. Signed to the major labels, they was buying my time more than my music. That's why you see content creators making more than rappers, because they have no limit, which is absolutely correct. If an artist can only drop an album every 9 months, and some are pushed back even further than that, then where is the money being made? Where do they have the opportunity to go out and collect other than tours? And you're only going to get one tour for one album, right? You would think if the majority of your money in the industry is being made on tour, you would try to be on tour as much as humanly possible, right? But touring is extremely expensive, and you're not even making all of the money that you're bringing in. Some of these guys make $100,000, $200,000 per show, and a lot of that money is gone because you're paying for so many different costs, travel, tour bus, the gas to go in the bus is expensive, private jets for some of these people, all of these different things that they're doing, all they're really doing is creating more expenses for themselves. So the benefit that you get is connecting with your fans and seeing hard numbers on who's willing to support you. Furthermore, he says, I'm going to go to Africa and record my next album, stay for 2 weeks, bring my producers, my art, and mash up. Don't get it confused. Me and Ross handled the business and still getting money from every direction. And then he brings up Kanye. He says, random, but I think Yeezy's smart, but be off a little bit. Because I bought like 17 pair of Yeezys since we've been trading rap shots, and I listened to your music to get me through my bid. You a super legend. I was more confused of why you was going so hard at me in the beginning. So he didn't understand why Kanye was so mad at him, right? And I think that's up in the air. But he says, when you see us going at it, it's always rap beef. We know each other personally and would never let it go too far. It's a bloody sport. Gotta be rough with it, okay? So I'm gonna leave that where it's at. Some people read into that a little deeper than they probably should have. I will not. Kanye sent the message out to Adidas. So let's hear what he had to say to Adidas, and then we're gonna get into a Senate bill that's trying to actually increase the royalty rate on Spotify. Well, not increase, but try to create a fund that would compensate artists better than Spotify off of Spotify plays. That's really what's at hand. But let's listen to Kanye sending a message to Adidas. Thanks. Damn. This man, one thing you gotta appreciate about Kanye, whether you love him or hate him or whatever it is, he don't pull no punches with people. If he got an issue with you, it's a real issue. It be up and it's stuck. He's still going at Adidas 2 years later. Say y'all making fake colorways that were never approved. Y'all stealing my ideas and designs. Stuff that I submitted to y'all put out under the Adidas brand when it was supposed to be for Yeezy. Right? Y'all fired me on a morality clause even though y'all was stealing from me the whole time. Despite all the money he made, they were still stealing. Just imagine how much more he should have made if that's the case. Then say the CEO gonna tell me to my face this bullshit and think I'm supposed to not react. But now we got the number one song in the country, number one album. I already broke down how the album performed. So he's experiencing, he may have fallen from grace, but it seems that he's rising because he has such a strong fan base that he doesn't even have to go through traditional outlets if he chooses not to. Now let's get into this House bill, okay? Based on what they're talking about, Spotify and Apple Music would be forced to pay artists more than the 0.003 cents per stream that they currently pay out. They're trying to raise the royalty rate to a flat 1 cent per stream. Now, some of y'all may be like, what the hell is that about, right? Especially if you're not in the music industry. 1 cent per stream would be a huge difference. We all went through math class. So 0.003. So that's not 30 cents. That's not 3 cents. That's a fraction of a penny, a fraction of a cent per stream, right? So it takes about 1,000 streams for you to kind of get to $1, somewhere around there. I think it's even worse than that, but we're just going to estimate that for the moment. But if they were to get to 1 cent per stream, we all know basic math. 100 streams would be, 100 cents, which is $1. So if that were to come into fruition, that would compensate artists way more, and we would have a way better, more functional ecosystem, especially for independent artists out here doing it, grinding on their own, because you can't fully make a living from streaming unless you have a massive, crazy audience. Now, I don't know if this bill is going to get passed, but they're literally trying to get this passed in the U.S. government. This is not some rinky-dink petition that's going around from door to door. This isn't somebody getting on social media or YouTube ranting and being mad and screaming at the top of their lungs that they can't survive. This is something that's really being considered in the U.S. government. I don't know if it's going to get approved. I mean, that's going to be a lot of money. that they're going to have to generate in order to create this fund to make this happen, because Spotify and Apple Music are not going to be paying this. It's not coming out of their pocket. This is an additional fund. All right? This bill is called the Living Wage for Musicians Act. Congressional Representatives Rashida Tlaib and Jamal Bowman are the ones that introduced this proposed bill. And they're aiming at increasing streaming royalties for musicians, as I stated before. Per the release, the act will create a new streaming royalty with the aim to compensate artists and musicians more fairly at a penny per stream when their music plays on streaming services. The report goes on to say that streaming has grown to represent 84% of recorded music industry revenue, but again, Spotify only pays 0.003 cents per, meaning an artist must reach 800,000 monthly streams in order to equal a full-time 15-hour job. $15 per hour job. So in order to make a basic, flat, livable rate, which 15 per hour is still tough for a lot of people, you got to have 800,000 people listening to your music every month. The proposed new royalty will be paid in addition to existing royalties, ensuring that artists receive at least 1 cent per stream with an eventual cap on the amount of possible profit per month. Again, this is a separate fund that will be paid out from basically a collective, whoever's going to put in on it. The additional payments will be funded via a tax on the streaming platform's non-subscription revenue and a small increase to the cost of music streaming subscriptions. So they're going to take a little bit of the subscriptions. They're going to take some of the revenue from non-subscription revenue, which is basically based in the company that they've been making, right? And they're going to have some other folks contribute to it. Tlaib, a representative of Detroit, said in a statement that her city's artists have changed the music industry, which is true because Detroit musicians have been around for a very long time, from forever, right? Motown on up, and even before then. Not to mention today, the sound of Detroit is still revolutionizing the sound of the music industry with their, unique beats and flow. And they want to see the people that they love get their fair share. Bauman, a representative of the Bronx in New York and founder of the Congressional Hip Hop Task Force, said that it is unconscionable that in order to buy a cup of coffee, an artist needs someone to stream their song over 1,000 times. Artists and musicians across the country deserve to be paid for their work. They previously teamed up in 2022 and introduced a similar resolution calling for economic justice and fairness in streaming. I don't know how successful they were in that, but they're coming back for blood. Okay? So let's listen to what what is her name again? What Miss Tlaib has to say real quick.
Mr. Speaker, I'm from Motown, where our music has changed the world in so many incredible ways forever. But artists in my district and across our country are struggling to make ends meet in an industry where the money just keeps going to executives and shareholders. It would take more than 800,000 streams per month to make equivalent of $15 an hour. The vast majority of our artists are on platforms like Apple Music, Spotify. And one of the things that, even for them, they never ever get to 800,000 streams in a year. This is a big deal. Streaming now represents 84% of recorded music industry's revenue in the United States. But most of the artists who bring joy to our lives and culture aren't seeing any of it. The Living Wage for Musicians Act, which I introduced for Representative Bowman, would change that by creating a new fund that aims to pay artists at least 1 penny per stream. The bill would completely reform the music industry, supporting a much more diverse set of artists, enabling more recording and touring, and sending a ripple effect throughout local economies by supporting professionals throughout the music industry. I truly encourage my colleagues to learn more about this, co-sponsor the bill, and help change artists' lives forever.
All right. So there you have it from Representative Tlaib, who is advocating on behalf of all artists in general, but specifically to those such as myself or others that don't have the backing of record companies, etc., to make a livable wage off of their music, because we do have fans, we do have supporters. We may not have the masses, but there has to be some sort of fair compensation, especially if we're going to be forwarding our music onto these platforms and having these licenses and agreements, but they're not favorable to anybody, right? Other than the major record companies such as Universal and all of them, because they have separate deals behind the scenes and ownership stake in the streaming platforms, which means that they make even more money because they have ownership in the company. It's not because they're getting all the money off of the streams. They're getting money off the streams, but they have more transparency because they own shares in the company. So as Spotify, Apple Music, all these different companies rise in value, they get financial kickbacks off of it. It should be illegal to do some shit like that, to be honest, but who the fuck am I to say that? All right? So that's my assessment of the Ye Vulture 2 rollout. We also gotta go, I got Drake in the thumbnail. We gotta go ahead and mention Kanye's rant. We mentioned Northwest album, Elementary School Dropout. Your bestie, Miss Westie, is coming. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that'll be good for the kids. I know I'm not gonna be listening to that, just to be completely honest, but maybe that'll be good for the junior bucks out there. You know what I'm saying? But let's get into what Kanye had to say about Drake. And not just Drake, but other people in the industry as well. He was not pulling no punches as per usual. He had a list of FUs, and to my knowledge, I think he's still compiling an additional list of FUs that he wants to address henceforth. So let's get into that. Kanye says, Rich, Ty, Cardi, and the support, and that's Playboy Cardi, not Cardi B, and the supporters that stood by us through everything. This number one is for you. It's for the people who won't be manipulated by the system, and fuck Adidas and everybody who works there or with them. Anyone who goes to school with anyone whose parents work at Adidas, just know they tried to destroy me, and here we are with the number one song in the world. Like the fake dude I saw in the lobby at the Ritz that works at GOAT. You pussies don't stand for shit. Fuck everybody at the Daily Mail and fuck everybody at the fashion houses that sided with Gabby and Hailey Bieber. Fuck each and every single one of y'all and every Christian that watched me have my kids taken out of my control. That's how I feel, and it's fuck Drake for taking Dirk right at the beginning of the Vultures rollout. I'll come back to y'all if I think of more fuck you. So as of right now, I don't think he's come back with any additionals. But I'll be here waiting just to see it. I won't be reporting on it, but I will be here just to see it because it's entertaining. This is going to be the most entertaining show on earth, man. I ain't gonna lie to you. This Kanye saga, this time around, without the political involvement, without the agenda, without all the foolishness, this shit is interesting. I don't know if I'm fully a fan back yet, because I was definitely growing up a big, huge Kanye fan. But all of that is unimportant. We got to see what's coming next. All right. Let me know what y'all think about all this down below in the comments. Be sure to like and share this video. If this is your first time seeing me on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Hit the post notification bell for all updates. All my inside is what it do. I hope y'all have a great night. I will see y'all later. All right. Much love and respect, y'all. Peace.
King of my city and cul-de-sac. Coming out swinging like soldier rag. Leading my people like quarterback. Boy, I study this shit, I'm an almanac. Had to get up and grind. Knowledge is booming, I'm here to apply. Came with the chip and the dip, it just single the mind. We finna do more than survive. I need my check. Spinning the block for the Gouda. We hitting the jeweler to flood out the net. We don't do beef on computers, I'm straight out the sewer. We come when you rest. Niggas be looking perplexed, so keeping my foot on their neck. No map, I trust my gut for the quest. But drama, I'm fully abreast. I was ready for years and they died of me. All of a sudden they tell me they proud of me. I been dropping these haters like calories. Cross them out, I came back with some boundaries. Stand for my honor, but too raw, no corner. Packing the stick with a drummer. Wanna catch my bad, won't fumble. I done came too far to be humble.